Okay, let's move on to chapter 3. So chapter 3 has expansion, fractions, as well as number patterns. So how are we supposed to do these topics? Okay. First things first, expansion. So expansion is the same thing as multiplication of algebra. So if you remember last year when we learned multiplication of algebra, if I have 2 times 3y, right, it's the same as 6y. How do I know that? Because the 2 is the numbers. I always look at the numbers first. I multiply the numbers first, and then I look at the alphabet. Okay, so let's take a look at this question here. So if we are combining many terms and multiplying it together, this topic, right, this new topic in Set 3, we will think about how can we do that using this box method. Okay, so one by one, right, 2 times 3y minus 1 is the same as 2 times 3y first, which gives me 6y, and then 2 times negative 1 next, which gives me negative 2. Okay, so in other words, that would be 6y minus 2. Yeah, so actually it is not too different from what we have learned in the previous years. All we need to do is to make sure that I am able to use the box method. Okay, so if let's say I have another question and in the exams they will not draw the box for you, you draw it for yourself, right? X times 2x plus 5 is the same as first x times 2x, which gives me 2x squared, right? And then x times 5, which gives me 5x. So I do it one by one, right? But if let's say you will find it very difficult to see things, you can always do it at the side. 2x times x gives me 2x squared because I have 2 copies of x, right? So you can always do it at the side and do it slowly. In the end, what you should get is 2x squared plus 5x. Okay, so the box method helps a lot. Okay, moving on to algebraic fractions. So now, if we are talking about fractions, how do we multiply fractions then? Always remember that when I multiply, it goes into the numerator and not the denominator. So it will be 5x over 2 because 5 times x gives me 5x. Okay, right? So if you notice here, that's the same thing. I always multiply to the top. Now, what happens if I have 2 fractions multiplied to each other? Then in this case, I will multiply the top and the bottom separately. Okay, so let's do it. We will have 5 times x gives me 5x, and at the bottom, 3 times 6 gives me 18. Okay, so that would be how you multiply it. And you can see here, that's the same thing. Right? 2 times 5a gives me 10a, and 3 times 7 gives me 21. So that is how you multiply algebraic fractions. Now, sometimes when you multiply algebraic fractions, you realize that it is not in the simplest form. Remember, fractions have simplest fractions. Just like 2 out of 4 is not the simplest fraction, it is actually 1 out of 2 that is the simplest form. Okay, so if we multiply everything together, like what we have learned, 2e squared f over, right, 5 times 6 gives me 30fe. You will realize that this is not the simplest form of the fraction, so you are not done yet. So how do we do things? We first expand everything out, okay? So we have 2 times e times f, right? Over 30 times f times e. You will realize that I am actually able to cancel out a few things, right? Which is f and e, which leaves me with 2e over 30, right? Am I done yet? That is not yet done. Okay, another method you can use is to divide the same to the top and the bottom to cancel out stuff. So I realized I can divide by 2 to the top and the bottom, and my final answer would actually be, right, e, once I divided 2e by 2, I get e, and then 30 divided by 2 will give me 50. And that is my final answer. Okay, so that is all for algebraic fractions. Last but not least, we have number patterns. Okay, number patterns is not too difficult. It's almost like primary school because all we need to see is what happens to the numbers, right? So 2, 5, 8, 11, what is the pattern? Basically, 2 plus 3 gives me 5, 5 plus 3 gives me 8, and then 8 plus 3 gives me 11. So the pattern is a plus 3 pattern. Now, what is new in Set 3 is that we have to put this in terms of algebra, okay? But you can use the calculator to give you the value for the algebraic nth term of the sequence. Okay, I will teach you the calculator method when I see you in school. But for the next one, first I need to find the fifth term of the sequence. The first, second, third, fourth terms are given already. So the fifth term is the next one after 11, which is plus 3, and that will give me 14. Okay, that will be my answer for the fifth term of the sequence. Now the nth term of the sequence, just use the calculator to find it. Okay, and that is all for my 5-minute summary. I hope I made it in time. If there are any questions, please send them to me and I will help you with your worksheet. Okay, thank you and I'll see you in school.